Hello everyone. We are going to discuss now the ASP.NET Server controls. In this video, the number of server controls we are going to discuss. HTML server controls are basically the standard HTML controls but which are enhanced to enable server-side processing. We know that these all the different controls which are concerned to the HTML, that is hypertext manipulation language, those are used at the static web pages, and those controls can be used at the server controls. But as we know, the ASP.NET is a server-side scripting language, and it will assign the database connection so that it will be calling it as the .NET framework and the server side processing. The HTML controls which are having the different header tags, anchor tags and input elements are not processed by the server but are sent to the browser for display. These HTML controls, that is the header tags, anchor tags and all different HTML controls, may not be processed by the server because it is used only at the browser level, or you can say at the client level. They are specifically converted to a server control by adding the attribute that is run at is equal to, in double quotation, server. So this is specific thing attribute which are used with the HTML server controls, and that will be adding an ID attribute to make them available for server side processing. Now those all HTML controls will be enhanced by the server side processing. So for example, consider the HTML input control. For example, see here in the angular bracket, it is said that input is a HTML control. Type is equal to text and size is equal to 40, which are given in double quotation. So this could be converted to a server control. Now we are concerned with the ASP.NET, so that ASP.NET is a server side language. So by adding of the run at an ID attribute, we can rewrite the same statement. We can rewrite the same statement of HTML input as a newly created the server control input statement. For example, input type is equal to text, ID is equal to text, size is equal to 40 and run at server. This is very important thing which we have to place inside our angular brackets. And so now this HTML controls are now enhanced with the HTML server control because we have written here run at server. So this is the particularly server side processing will be done with the HTML controls, but those will be get enhanced and that will be just flourished with the server controls. Now the first control we have to study, that is the button control. We know that the ASP.NET provides three types of button controls. Which are those? First is a normal button. This will display text within the rectangular area. Second is a link button. This will display text that looks like a hyperlink. And third, image button. This will display an image on the button. Now, when a user clicks on a button, two events are raised. Which are those events? Click and command. So that will be always button has only one event, that is called as a click event. Important event of button control is a click event. So what is the basic syntax of button control? See here, the button control is having the syntax ASP colon button ID is equal to button 1, run at is equal to server, on click is equal to button 1 underscore click, click is the event, and text is equal to click. So this text is equal to click will be get displayed on the button. So that is, we can call it as a caption. What are the different common properties which are used with the button control? Those are, the important properties are the text. The first important property is the text. The text is displayed on the button. So that text is also called, we can call it as a caption. This is for button and link button controls only. Now, next is the image URL. So for image button control only, this property is used. The image will be displayed for this button. The next is a property alternate text. So in the alternate text, the image button control only we can use alternate text, and the text to be displayed if the browser cannot display the image. Then next property is a causes validation. So this will determine whether page validation occurs when a user clicks the button. Now this default is true mostly on the button, whether the button is visible or disabled, that will be done with the causes validation. Normally the button is having the default value is equal to true, so that you can say the button can be clickable. Then command name, that will be a property which will give the description, a string value that is passed to the command event when a user clicks the button. Whatever the property says, that command name, that will be given the string value which will pass to the command event. Next is a command argument, a string value that is passed to the command event when the user clicks the button. And the postback URL is one of the property that will be used for the URL of the page that is requested when the user clicks the button. The next controls, that is the text boxes and labels, these server controls are normally used in ASP.NET applications for inputting the values from the user. Normally text box is used to accept input from the user. A text box control can accept one or more lines of the text. It will depend on the setting of the text mode attribute. So you can give the attribute that multiple line or single line. Now another important label control which is provided an easy way to display text which can be used and changed from one execution of the page to the next. If we want to display the text that does not change, so you can use the literal text. So label is given for the text value which are given at the text boxes, that will be labeled by some value or some string or some text. So what is the basic syntax of this text control? That is given here in the angular bracket, ASP colon text box ID is equal to text state, run at is equal to server, this is important, slash ASP colon text box. So that will be the important control which is used at the ASP.NET application. The next is a text where we can input the text from the user, so that the text content of the text box will be given by the user. The next property is a maximum length, that is max length. So you can create your own number of characters that can be entered into the text box. So maximum number of characters which we are giving in the text box, that can be also set. Next is a wrapping, that is wrap. It will determine whether or not text wraps automatically or for multiple line text box. So default is a true, so wrapping will be done. Wrapping in the sense, the to the next line, the particular text or the next text which is written by or typed by the user, that will be appeared at the next line. Next property is a read only. This will determine whether the user can change the text in the box. So default is a false, that is the user cannot change the text. Sometimes we require that you can give the text which is a fixed text in the text box. The next is a columns, the width of the text box in the characters. The actual width is determined based on the font that is used for the text entry. So columns and rows also we can use in the text box, where we can give the some characters, so that is the width of the characters. Also in the rows property, the height of the multi-line text box in lines, how many rows we can create. So mostly the default value is always 0, and this will means a single line text box. So rows will be 0, then will be a single line text box. If you are specifying rows is equal to 2 or 3, that will give multiple line text box in number of lines. So most of the used attribute for the label control is a text. Now this will implies that the text displayed on the label. So this is a very important attribute, or you can say having the property, the text which is given by the programmer, and that will be not changed. So normally it will be given as a literals. So the text which will get appeared on that control. Next are the checkboxes and radio buttons. The server controls like checkbox and radio buttons that will having different meaning. The checkbox which will display the single option that the user can either check or uncheck, and the radio buttons present a group of options from the user can select just one option. So one option will be imported in the radio button, and the checkbox will give the number of options, but we can select single option or any number of options. So user can either check or unchecked. So to create a group of radio buttons, you can specify the same name for the group name attribute of the each radio button of the group. If more than one group is required in a single form, then you have to specify the different group names for each group. On the other hand, if you want checkbox or radio button to be selected when the form is initially displayed, set the checked attribute to true. So this is important that you have to give this attribute as a true. If the checked attribute is set to true for multiple radio buttons in a group, then only last one is considered as a true. Now what is the syntax of this checkbox? See here, ASP checkbox ID is equal to check option. Run at server, this is a compulsory thing, that is attribute we have to place inside that syntax. Now instead of checkbox you can place here radio button. So radio button is equal to RDB option and run at server. So this will create the checkbox as well as a radio button. The important properties of checkbox and radio buttons are common properties are the text is one of the important property. The text displayed next to the checkbox or radio button. The same properties we can place with the checkbox as well as radio button. The checked property specifies whether it is selected or not to be selected, and the default is false. And the group name property, that is the name of the group the control will belongs to. So that is all with the common properties of checkboxes and radio button. Both are the similar one. Thank you very much. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay home. Thank you.